Welcome to Eastcote House Gardens, the one-time home of the Hawtrey family and their descendants. They were wealthy landowners with a family seat at Chequers in Buckinghamshire and were associated with Eastcote for over 400 years. By the end of the 19th century, they were the largest landowners in the parish of Ruislip after King's College, Cambridge. This is the original driveway and was used until the 19th century when the main entrance to the house was moved to a different aspect. Now I will introduce you to Leslie Crowcroft and Susan Toms, who will take you on a tour of the gardens.
Halfway along the drive on your left is the sarsen stone. These stones are sandstone and found mainly in the Chiltern Belt. They were often found at old sites, sometimes marking routes and used for sharpening tools. They were thought to bring good luck and were frequently placed near entrances to dwellings.
These are the original pillars of the portico of Eastcote House. The first recorded mention of a house on the site was a timber-framed cottage or hall house, thought to have been built in the 14th century. A 1494 record notes that John Amory, lying in extremis, surrendered a cottage and 2 closes called Hobkites and Droker, and 12 acres of land in the fields of Eastcote. Around 1525, Hobkites came into the possession of the Hawtrey family. The house was soon proved inadequate, and construction of a new property started around 1598. From archaeological finds and archive records, we know that the new house was a grand construction of brick and stone, incorporating marble and Portland stone. The wealth and social status of the residents can be assured, as they lived off expensive meat and drunk imported beers and wines. Over the centuries, the house was considerably altered and enlarged and probably changed its name to Eastcote House in the early 19th century. By 1816, it had a new north wing, lengthened ground floor windows, moulded wooden panelling, and a fine main staircase with a twisted barley stick moulded balusters. Ruislip Northwood Urban District Council purchased the house in 1931, and for the next 30 years the house acted as a community centre and the Food Control Office during World War II. By 1962, after a long period of neglect, the house was declared unsafe for public use and was finally demolished in 1964. The weeping ash is said to be crying for the lost house. Until the 20th century, the house was set in extensive parkland and farmland, with open views in all directions. The yew trees were planted to screen the working quarters of the house from people walking in the grounds.
The Garden Cafe stands on the site of the coach house, which had been demolished in 1964. It was a building of 4 rooms accessed from the courtyard by 2 sets of double doors and presumably housed 2 carriages. These were the original stables associated with the house and are a Grade 2 listed structure. The roof trusses and the timber framing in the upper floors are the earliest parts of the building, dating to around 1600. The main room spans the entire ground floor. Plans show that there was once a central staircase rising to the first floor, with room for a carriage to the southeast and 2 partitions to the northwest. The first floor within the hall is known as the gallery and covers roughly 1/3 of the hall. As part of the HLF-funded restoration project of 2014-15, the lower section of the front wall of the building was rebuilt, leaving the 1930s mock Tudor brickwork in place and relocating the main entrance to its former position.
The ha-ha is a ditch with a flintstone wall of unknown date. Its purpose was to stop livestock straying into the formal gardens without the need of a fence, which would spoil the view from the house. Archaeological excavations within the meadow have revealed part of a smithy or farm building of medieval date. It was built with flint sills, part cobbled, part brickwork floors, a tiled roof, and probably an open courtyard. Small pieces of charcoal and pottery were present.
Boardwalk. This was once the site of an ornamental lake with a waterfall, a status symbol showing the wealth of the residents of Eastcote House. Long Meadow is an 11-acre ancient water meadow, now a site of importance for nature conservation. It is the floodplain for the River Pin. Opposite the bridge stands 5 young elm trees that were planted in 2011 as part of the Conservation Foundation's project Ulmus Londinium. There are ancient oaks and ash trees within the meadow, recognised by the Woodland Trust.
The Dovecote is a Grade 2 listed building and one of the few remaining dovecotes or pigeon houses left in Middlesex. It was a valuable building, bringing an important source of fresh meat, and as such had to be licensed by the Crown. John Hawtrey built the original dovecote without a license, which was subsequently granted to his nephew in 1601. It was rebuilt sometime in the 1800s, but reused some of the original Tudor bricks. The remains of one of the original nesting ledges can be seen with indentations all around the walls, showing where the other ledges were situated. It is estimated the dovecote would have contained approximately 950 nesting sites. A revolving ladder stands in the centre of the dovecote. It was used to access the nesting boxes for removal of eggs and the squabs, young pigeons. The turret, the way of entry for the pigeons, the box situated underneath with a now missing trapdoor, with an opening and closing mechanism on the inside, served 2 purposes. It would allow pigeons in and out, but trap any bird of prey for the keeper to remove.
The wild orchard contains crab apples, wild plum and wild pear. The Jubilee orchard was planted in the autumn of 2011 to celebrate the 2012 Jubilee.
I remember Eastcote House very well. I spent hours there with my grandfather, George Casemore, during the school holidays. My strongest memory is of the potting shed, built of brick, just to the right of the door leading through to the old orchard. This housed the solid fuel boiler in a pit, which heated the water pipes which ran through the wall to the greenhouse on the other side. My job was to mist spray the cucumbers. At that time, the dovecote was used for storing apples, and I remember a lot of fruit trees and cordons on the wall of the kitchen garden.
The old orchard is richly planted with both black and white mulberry, fig, apples, walnut and quince. The remains of lime wash can be seen on the wall where the greenhouse once stood.
The walled garden. The Grade 2 listed walls were restored in 2014-15. Their exact age is unknown, as there have been many alterations during the centuries. At the base of the walls there are some very narrow bricks, some of which may come from the medieval dwelling, which was demolished late 16th century, when Eastcote House was built. The 4 herb beds containing herbs for cosmetic, domestic, medicinal and culinary purposes were replanted for the Queen's 90th birthday in 2016.
A very special garden. Within these 4 walls, an unfolding story, each taking their turn to unravel their glory. ephemeral balance and a great sense of peace, a floral palette in this masterpiece. A week or two's heyday, but then they withdraw, as another on cue takes to the floor. Protagonists emerge as a novel unfolds, revealing their truths as the story is told. Fun in naming the ones that we know, and spotting the buds just beginning to grow. The satin of petals lit by the sun, texture and colour harmonising as one. Peace from abundance and much loving care, a garden like poetry and one we can share. Grateful for this natural beauty and art that brightens our days and touches our hearts.